The USS Aegis glided through the void, its hull gleaming under the distant light of 1,000 stars. Sensors reported nothing unusual, no debris, no anomalies, no threats. Yet Commander Leora felt an unease she couldn't explain. Every creak of the ship, every flicker of the lights seemed amplified in the stillness. The crew moved with precise efficiency, their eyes scanning monitors, fingers tapping consoles, but the silence pressed down on them like an invisible weight. All systems normal. Lieutenant Curran reported, his voice steady but lacking conviction. No energy signatures beyond standard background radiation. Leora nodded, staring out into the dark expanse. Wondering if something was being hidden from them, the mission was simple. Survey the uncharted sector Omega-19, verify the coordinates of a long-lost research outpost, and return. Easy work for a crew trained in exploration and survival. Yet the emptiness gnawed at her instincts, like a predator circling unseen. As they approached the coordinates, a subtle anomaly appeared on the sensors, faint and almost imperceptible. A ripple in the void that didn't belong. Curran frowned, adjusting the scanner. It's nothing technically, just a small distortion, he said, though his voice carried a note of doubt. Leora's eyes narrowed, sensing the deception even if it was unintentional. Keep scanning, she ordered. I want to know exactly what nothing is. Hours passed with no change. The distortion fading, leaving only the cold expanse. Crew members began whispering, the kind of rumors that form in confined spaces under stress, tailies of ships vanishing, entire star systems falling silent. None of it recorded officially, but everyone had heard them. The Aegis pressed on, lights cutting through the darkness like knives, shadows dancing along the walls. Every sensor, every probe, every scanner reported the same thing. Nothing yet outside. The stars twinkled as if mocking them, unaware that the universe itself was about to betray its light. Leora's hand hovered over the console, feeling the pulse of the ship like a heartbeat. Something was coming, something beyond comprehension, and no technology could announce its arrival. The crew clung to routine, pretending the sensors were sufficient, that the darkness could be catalogued and quantified, but instinct warned her otherwise. The emptiness was not empty, it was patient. Watching, waiting for the moment to strike, and somewhere deep in the void, a shadow began to move, unseen, unfathomable, unstoppable. First it was subtle, a dimming at the edge of the starfield, like someone had drawn a curtain across the cosmos. The crew noticed, though the sensors registered nothing. That's impossible, Curran muttered, scrolling through readings. All stellar outputs are normal, yet the lights of distant suns began to vanish, one by one fading into nothing, as though the universe were exhaling its light and keeping the warmth for itself. Leora gripped the command rail, her mind racing. Prepare for visual sweep. Get every external camera online. Every monitor revealed the same horrifying truth. Stars blinking out in clusters, leaving the galaxy a black canvas. Even the ship's engines seemed to hum quieter. As if sensing the shift in reality, panic began to creep through the crew, subtle at first, eyes darting, hands trembling, conversations trailing off into silence. Commander, Ensign Vila said, voice tight, I think it's not just dying stars, it's everything. The sensors are blind to the darkening. Leora felt a chill she hadn't known in decades of space travel. Then we're seeing it with our own eyes, she said, trying to anchor herself. That's enough to know it's real. The darkness spread like ink in water, swallowing nebulae, pulsars, even the faint glow of distant galaxies. And yet the ship's instruments, so finely tuned to detect radiation, gravity, even subatomic shifts, reported nothing. No anomaly, no source, no warning, nothing. Leora realized with a sinking heart that they were alone in observation. The universe was unrecognizable, and human perception was the only guide. Curran worked frantically, recalibrating, overclocking, attempting to find any signature of what was consuming the light. Nothing, Commander, absolutely nothing, he said, jaw tight. It's blind to our tech. Even the ship's AI hesitated, circuits buzzing with uncertainty, unable to classify or quantify the dark. Then we rely on instinct, Leora said, her voice firm, eyes narrowing on the darkness beyond the viewport. As the last familiar stars vanished, a suffocating silence filled the void. The crew huddled, feeling the immensity of the black expanse, every heartbeat amplified, every breath a drum in the stillness. How do you fight something that isn't there? Whispered Vila. You survive, Leora said. You survive until you understand it. Outside, the blackness shifted subtly, moving with intent, a predator with no face. And for the first time in history, humans were not only blind, they were vulnerable. The Aegis drifted in the endless black, systems humming in tense anticipation. The darkness beyond was no longer passive. It pulsed, subtle waves of pressure brushing against the ship like a living thing. Curran's hands flew over the console, scanning, recalibrating, but every attempt to detect or measure it failed. It's aware, he said, voice low. Whatever this is, it senses us. Leora's stomach churned, a predator invisible yet intimate, her mind racing through centuries of human exploration. Nothing prepared them for this. Every crew member felt it in their bones, a suffocating presence pressing from every direction, and then the comms flickered, static first, then distorted voices, fragments of conversations that shouldn't exist, whispers from the void itself. Commander, Vila said. Staring at the main viewport, the shadows. They're moving toward us. Outside, the blackness shifted like smoke in zero gravity, forming shapes that defied geometry. Yet no sensors registered mass, energy, or motion. Leora steadied herself. All hands brace for impact. This is unlike anything we've trained for. The ship shuddered as if the void itself had touched the hull, an imperceptible but terrifying pressure that made even the strongest crew members gasp. It's probing, Curran realized. It doesn't attack it. Studies, each shadow seemed to stretch infinitely, bending light and matter around it. They couldn't see a beginning or an end, only an intent, ancient and patient. The AI tried to categorize the threat, offering probabilities and tactical simulations, but the data was meaningless. Calculations collapsing under the unknowable. Leora issued orders. Shields to maximum, engines on standby, maintain formation. They obeyed, knowing instinct must guide them more than technology. And then, the first star in their sector disappeared completely, leaving the Aegis isolated in darkness. It's beginning, whispered Vila, as if uttering a sacred word. Leora looked out, feeling the weight of centuries of human curiosity crushing her with dread and awe. Somehow, they had discovered something older than humanity, smarter than any intelligence they knew, and now it was fully aware of them. The crew clung to routine, monitors, and protocols, but the void laughed in silence, waiting for them to make a mistake. Days, or maybe hours, passed, time indistinct in the black. The stars were gone, swallowed by the void, leaving only darkness to navigate. The Aegis continued its course, scanning, probing, searching for a flaw, a weakness, anything. We need to communicate, Curran said. Maybe it responds to patterns, to reason. Leora shook her head. Or maybe it doesn't think the way we do. It perceives differently, beyond our senses. They tried signals, light pulses, gravity waves. Even quantum entanglement bursts, but every attempt was swallowed without trace. The ship's AI generated theories, simulations of extinction events, universal collapses, and cosmic predators, all plausible, all terrifying. We are insignificant, muttered Vila. Nothing in our tech can touch it. Leora clenched her fists, refusing despair. Then we rely on what makes us human, she said. Ingenuity, courage, resilience. They began experimenting. Moving patterns of light across the hull, broadcasting their own life signs into the void, hopping to make themselves visible, understandable, somehow comprehensible. The crew worked tirelessly, their fear tempered by determination. Every action was a statement. We exist, we observe, we endure. Leora's voice echoed through the corridors, the mantra that kept them from surrendering to Terra. And then subtly the void reacted, a ripple across the black, a pulse in response to their signals. Curran's eyes widened. It's acknowledging us, maybe even learning. The realization was terrifying and exhilarating. The first sign of communication with a force that had existed beyond human comprehension. The darkness shifted, forming shapes, faint geometries in the void, patterns that hinted at logic, thought, intelligence. Leora leaned forward, heart hammering. We're no longer just survivors, we're participants. The universe had presented humanity with a choice. Fight, flee, or engage, and only the brave could chart a path through the incomprehensible. The crew tightened their grips, focused on their instruments and instincts, prepared to stake humanity's presence in the void. Every pulse of their signals a declaration, every breath a rebellion against the consuming darkness. It began as a flicker, a single pinprick of light beyond the hull. The crew froze, eyes glued to the viewport, hearts racing. Could the stars return? Could the void be reasoned with? Leora watched as the pinprick expanded, a network of light weaving through the black like a reborn web. It's giving us something, Curran said, disbelief in his voice. A pattern, a map, instructions maybe. The shapes coalesced into something almost familiar, geometry and rhythm intertwined, signaling intention. The void had made contact, The crew worked together, interpreting, replicating, sending signals in response. Their combined efforts a dance of understanding. Fear remained, but it was tempered by awe. They were the first humans to witness a consciousness older than stars, reaching across the void to test. To teach, to communicate. Leora felt tears sting her eyes, a mixture of relief and wonder. "We're not alone in thought," she whispered, voice shaking. The Aegis glided forward, now not merely surviving, but exploring, interpreting, participating in a dialogue with the incomprehensible. For the first time in decades, the sensors lit up, showing activity, not matter, not energy, but intention. The void pulsed rhythmically, almost as if alive, acknowledging their persistence. The crew laughed, cried, and cheered quietly, knowing that this was not victory, but the beginning of humanity's first true contact with the universe itself. Darkness still lingered around them, patient, waiting, yet for the first time it did not terrify. It had tested humanity, and humanity had responded not with fear, but with ingenuity, courage, and resilience. The stars would return slowly, one by one, as the void taught patience, respect, and the thrill of discovery. Leora turned to her crew, pride swelling in her chest. "We've survived the darkness," she said, "and we've learned to speak its language." Outside, the cosmos shimmered faintly, welcoming humanity into a larger story, one of endless mystery, uncharted paths, and the first light that came from understanding.